Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag-and-drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show.
I don't think hoity-toity is a thing you use anymore.
What are you talking about?
I don't think it's a thing you can say to people anymore.
What did it cross a line?
Well,
and,
after
a certain year. Oh, can't say that anymore.
It doesn't sit well. It's an anachronism. It's like human chess. It's a thing that you just that a gentleman does not do.
I still play human chess. What are you talking about?
You don't dress up like a chess and do the thing. You don't do the whole thing on a field.
I have a whole bunch of people do it, and I tell them where to move.
You do not do that. Please don't tell me you do that. It
very
makes me
kingly of me.
incredibly uncomfortable. A gentleman does not associate, does not practice nor associate with others who perform human chess. I joke, but that was, human chess is a big deal.
It's, you know what it is?
Yeah. What?
It's very hoity-toity. Boom!
Okay, everybody, welcome to the next reel. I'm Pete Wright. There's Andy Nelson.
Must be the end of the year show.
Hey, Happy New Year, right?
Happy New Year.
Because that's right. This is our new year. It's officially January. And we're so glad that you're here, kicking off yet another year of movie spoilage. And we're so glad that you put your movie spoilage in our capable hands. Before we get started, head over to thenextreel.com and you can learn more about the show. You can catch up with our back episodes, and you can subscribe to the show on iTunes. Make sure you don't miss a single episode. If you have a few stars left, why don't you kick off the new year by going into iTunes and leaving us a 5-star review? That would be really, really swell. We haven't asked for that in a long time, but it really does help people discover the show. And what a great episode to discover this show with. That's what I'm saying. Here. Let's do trailers. I think I'm going to go first because yours is certainly more fun.
It's certainly more fun and certainly more fitting.
Yes, yeah, it'll be a better segue.
Yes, although yours, the titular item of yours is featured in our movie.
Yeah, true to form. I am doing Cake. I'm doing Cake, which is actually if you're in one of the limited release cities, you very well may have seen this film already. Or you should. Directed by Daniel Barnes, written by Patrick Tobin, stars Jennifer Aniston, Anna Kendrick, Britt Robinson, Misty Upham, Sam Worthington, Amy Gummer. It stars a lot of people. William H. Macy, Felicity Huffman is bananas crazy out of character in this film. It looks really, really good. Jennifer Aniston plays Claire. She initiates a dubious relationship with a widower while confronting fantastical hallucinations of his dead wife. This film, I'm saying it, the reason it is the season, the reason we're seeing it trickle out in December is because Jennifer Aniston stands a chance at the Oscar for this role, and particularly in a year with rather grim pickings for Best Actress. I think she's sitting high on her horse in this one. What do you think?
She looks amazing in this. I mean, it looks like a really interesting film, first off. But watching it, this was the one where she opted to not use any makeup at all, as I recall. And she said that, she felt like it was kind of a transformative thing. And she really does. I mean, she's stepped out of the box a few times. I mean, she did the what was that one she did with Jake Gyllenhaal? The Good Girl.
Oh yeah.
So she's kind of played around with some more serious sorts of roles before, but this one certainly looks like the one that is going to be the opportunity for her to really show people that she can really do a wide variety of stuff and do some pretty powerful stuff to boot. And so I think this one looks really good, and I'm quite excited to see it.
I am too. It comes out in wide release in just a couple of weeks, January 23rd in the U.S. So if you have seen it, let us know what you think. Head over to Facebook and give us your thoughts. Otherwise, catch it in January.
Excellent.
What's yours?
Well, mine fits very nicely in with what we're actually discussing tonight. Big disaster film. It is the over-the-top, ridiculous disaster movie San Andreas, which is coming out next May. Memorial Day weekend looks like it's going to be the explosive film of that weekend. See what I did there?
I do see that.
Yeah. It looks just over the top, ridiculous disaster. San Andreas Fault, of course. The massive earthquake rips apart California. According to Paul Giamatti, who's in it, says this is an earthquake that people on the East Coast are going to feel. So one of those earthquakes, and of course, then you have the just like our film tonight, it has the all-star cast headed up by none other than The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, as a what is he? It's like a rescue.
It's like a helicopter pilot.
Yeah, he goes in and rescues, and of course he has to go find his daughter somewhere in the rubble of San Francisco that's all falling down. His daughter is Alexandra Daddario, and she's been in the Percy Jackson films, and unfortunately in the Texas Chainsaw 3D film. And then you also have Carla Gugino in there. You've got Ian Griffith. You've got, like I said, Paul Giamatti. Archie Panjabi is in this. Kylie Minogue is in this, weirdly. Which is kind of a strange name to see pop up in there. And then the man who seems to be popping up in a lot of these big disaster movies, or at least Godzilla, Ken Watanabe. That's one. So it looks ridiculous, but it looks exactly like what a disaster movie is supposed to do. Shake things up, and then people have to survive. I will probably see this. I don't know if I'll watch it in theaters, but it looks like kind of dumb fun that I can just put on at some point. Brad Payton is directing it. He's not. He's one of those directors. If you look at his filmography, it's definitely geared towards stuff for younger viewers. Cats and Dogs: The Revenge of Kitty Galore was his theatrical debut, and then he did
that was
Journey.
A stunner.
Yeah, right. And then he did Journey to the Mysterious Island, which I have to say that's kind of a guilty family pleasure for me and the kids. They love watching that movie. There's something about all the giant creatures, the giant lizards and bees, and all that stuff, and the little tiny flying elephants and stuff. Or I guess they're not flying.
They're not flying elephants, but the little tiny elephants. Yeah,
little tiny elephants. It's a very fun movie to watch with the kids. So I think Brad Payton, he's kind of got a good sense of creating an entertaining film. And this is a little more serious than those other two films, and it's not going to be cake, but it'll be entertaining.
I have some real time correction. I think this is not the Ken Watanabe I think it is. It's a different Ken Watanabe. It is a much younger Ken Watanabe who has only been in 3 movies.
You are right.
There are 2 Ken Watanabe. This is...
According to IMDb, there's at least 7.
Just when you think they broke the mold, it turns out they actually did forget to break the mold. There are many Ken Watanabes.
Yes. Leave it to us to be idiots.
Hey, we just uncovered, I think, a cabal. This is a cabal of Ken Watanabes.
Wow.
A kabatanabe. That's what they call that.
But at least it's not DJ Ken Watanabe.
No.
At least we can say that.
No. Guarantee you he's not in this. Okay. So there you go. I'm excited about it. I love the Rock and the Rocks.
That's right.
And you know what? Frankly, San Andreas, I know we've seen it crumble in Superman the movie.
Yeah.
What other giant disaster movie have you seen about San Andreas Fault?
Volcano.
Was that also? I guess that's right.
Wasn't it?
I just don't recall a movie dedicated to, because Volcano was dedicated to a volcano.
Well, yeah,
there's lava coming up in the
San
city.
San Andreas ruptured and it caused all the lava to bubble up through.
But here's what I hope is that finally we will see a cinematic depiction of California becoming an island. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, what people always keep saying.
That's what they keep saying. Mm-hmm. It's about time. We need to see that.
People are calling for it.
Oh, hey, Andy?
Yes.
Who do you think you are? God himself?
What is it, Lookout?
I never saw anything like it. An enormous wall of water coming towards us.
In the early morning hours of New Year's Eve, Gene Hackman,
Ernest Borgnine, Red Buttons, Carol Lindley, Roddy McDowall, Stella Stevens, Shelley Winters, Jack Albertson, Pamela Sue Martin, Arthur O'Connell, Eric Shea, and Leslie Nielsen were aboard the SS Poseidon when it was hit by a 90-foot tidal wave.
Oh, my God.
And capsized. The Poseidon Adventure. The most exciting escape adventure of our time.
Now follow me.
It took the lives of the 1,400 people on board and changed the lives of the few who would survive.
Climbing to another deck will kill you all. And sitting on our butts is not going to save us either. Don't look down.
Now there's a chance for me to do something that I know how to do. Please, you just gotta let me do.
You're going the wrong way, damn it! Who do you think you are, God himself? That's the way out.
The combined talents of 15 Academy Award winners bring you Irwin Allen's production of The Poseidon Adventure, a Ronald Neame film, coming from 20th Century Fox.
This film, of course, we haven't even said it officially. This is the Poseidon Adventure, 1972, directed by Ronald Neame.
Wait.
What?
It's the 1972 one we're talking about?
I hate you so much. We're starting a new year.
Is that the 2005 miniseries with Adam Baldwin and Rutger Hauer and Steve Guttenberg?
We're starting a new year, and that means we have to start with trust in one another, and you are breaking that trust.
Oh.
Yes.
What about Poseidon? The Wolfgang Peterson remake.
I don't even want to talk to you right now, because now you're making me second guess. Maybe I watched the wrong movie.
Let's talk about Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. The sequel with Michael Caine and Sally Field, where they go back to the boat. Treasure hunters to find a fortune. Oh, that's
pretty good.
Been made.
I didn't even watch the movie, but I did take a tour of the Queen Mary. That counts, right?
I've seen the Queen Mary, but I haven't taken the tour.
Oh, I had the tour. I have a picture of me and my cousin. I think we really hated each other at the time. And my folks holding ironically holding a Queen Mary life preserver. Which I don't think bodes well. I think they make you take the picture. At least they did for us. They made us take the picture on our way onto the boat, which I think doesn't give you a good feeling, even though it's like in dock.
Right.
You just sort of think it's just going to peel off and turn over.
Yeah, that thing
this was many years ago.
That is too funny.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I got a hat. I got a Queen Mary hat. But yes, we are doing Poseidon Adventure 1972, directed by Ronald Neame. Is that how you do it? Neame?
Yeah.
Neame. Uncredited by Irwin Allen.
Which is I haven't heard anyone say that Irwin Allen was the uncredited director. He produced it, but
yeah
I think Irwin Allen fudged his IMDb credits. Yeah, I'm going to be uncredited on that too.
Have you read the Paul Gallico novel?
I haven't, but interestingly, it sounded like he was actually on an ocean voyage.
I thought he was he not on the one that tipped?
Yeah, it was the Queen Mary.
The Queen Mary that tipped, yeah.
Yeah, and it was in rough seas, and it it started tipping, so it was like almost, 45 degrees or something, and then it righted itself, which is what it's supposed to do when you don't have, investors hounding you to get it to port unsafely. And from that, it kind of spurred on the idea for him to write this book. What if?
Yeah, this is a good what if. And that's the story that I heard too. It's this that when you start seeing things just slide sideways, and everybody falls to the wall of the ship, to the interior wall of the ship. That's enough to inspire a heck of a book. I have not read it either. This happened in 1942. This rogue wave event on which the book was based. The movie then 1972. So this is one of those great '70s blockbuster disaster films that are so that are so wonderfully characterized to destroy everything, to really challenge our expectations, and do it with an absolutely star-studded cast at the time. Gene Hackman, Ernest Borgnine, Red Buttons, Carol Lindley, Roddy McDowall, Stella Stevens, Shelley Winters. Shelley Winters is the only one trained to swim upstairs and down hallways in this film.
I didn't know that's what the women's swimming league trained people to do.
It's a more of a guerrilla event. It's special forces training to really get them ready for their lanes. Jack Albertson, Arthur O'Connell. It is a great cast of wonderful 70s faces. And I think this one holds up better than the others in the category. What do you think?
Yeah, I haven't seen. I mean, there's a lot in the category. I mean, there's the airport movies, Airport 75, Airport 77, The Towering Inferno, the Swarm. I mean, Irwin Allen, who produced this, became known as the master of disaster, and because he was producing. I mean, he was a TV producer. He had done a lot of those great 60s shows like Lost in Space, Land of the Giants, and he started making all these disaster films. The Towering Inferno, Flood, Fire, Hanging by a Thread, The Night the Bridge Fell Down, Cave In, The Swarm. He also directed Beyond the Poseidon Adventure, the huge flop sequel, when the time ran out. So he kind of led the charge for creating these because it seemed, people were clamoring for watching disaster. I mean, this was nominated for a number of Oscars, including Best Picture, as was The Towering Inferno. So they clearly tapped into something. Actually, sorry, this one wasn't nominated for Best Picture, but The Towering Inferno was. And but they had tapped into this thing. And I don't think I've ever actually seen the Towering Inferno completely. I never got into it as much as I enjoyed this one. And I think it's because this one, it seems like these are people who are trapped in this awful situation. They have to make a choice and to get themselves out on their own. And so they are working to escape this sinking ship. In the Towering Inferno, it's like this building goes up in flames, and then it's like the firefighters come in to get everybody out.
Right.
So it's I don't know, it's less interesting to me. And I mean, even the airport movies, it's kind of the same sort of thing. It's like, are they going to be able to save the people on the plane? This one, it's about this. It's a very intimate story about these 10 people who decide they're going to follow this reverend in their group and try to get to the bottom of the ship, which is now the top because the ship is flipped over. And I think that's the thing that makes this one stand above all the rest of them.
I do too. Apart from the fact that there really are some interesting characters in this, in this film. I think the tale of their journey. It's a film of serial escapes. That I find myself toward the end getting a little bit fatigued. In the second half of the movie, in the mode of, okay, I get it. It's another escape of a creaky thing. Ultimately, the characters are, I think, more interesting in this film to the point where you really do want to see sort of where they come from. I think the film, the writing of the film is really quite well done. It's artfully, some of these sequences are really artfully delivered. In particular, for me, one that just really stands out is the initial performance we get from Ernest Borgnine and Stella Stevens, his wife, in their stateroom. We're just meeting them for the first time, and in just a few wonderful lines, we get everything we need to know about these two characters without them actually telling us. They're having an argument over something else. And over the course of this argument, we discover that he is an ex-policeman who kept arresting her because she was a prostitute, and he fell in love with her and wanted her off the street, and now they're married. And the unveiling of their relationship, I found really mesmerizing. I thought that was just one of those standout character sequences that just sort of peppered this film in a really interesting way. Long before the ship even the ship goes under.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are a very interesting couple, and it really makes for kind of just this unforgettable element of the story. I really enjoy the banter between the two of them. It definitely they have that love-hate sort of relationship, the way that it's played. Where Stella's character is very antagonistic toward him, but you also see that touching moment when she kind of says, what she's nervous about, the fact that she thinks that she saw a guy on the ship who was like a former John, and it makes her just kind of have this moment, and it's kind of touching for a moment, and you can see that there is this compassion between these two characters, and there's a lot of love there, even though there's a lot of yelling for the most part.
Yeah, a lot of yelling. Yeah. It's a lot of yelling, but it ends up being, it ends up being a really wonderful sort of payoff, in the end when we finally lose her, and he gets to do his scream, the primal scream. Mm-hmm. The only thing I ever cared about in the world. You killed her. You killed her. It ends up, it's this. It is truly just sort of a Neanderthal moment of watching Ernest Borgnine come unhinged, hanging off the side of the scaffolding. But I think it ends up being powerful all the same.
It is. It definitely is, and it's nice to see that moment and how his character. He has clearly all this anger, and he's always kind of fighting with everybody. But there also is a lot of love, and it is a very nice moment. As this is one of those movies where I find, as long as I can get myself into the mindset of the movie when I'm watching it, that I'm good. But it's also a movie that has been, I don't want to say lampooned, but it can definitely be. You can look at some of the dialogue, and it can be rather silly if you're not really kind of in along with the characters.
I don't know what you're talking about. What do you? I mean, really? What are you? What are you? You think you're a god?
That's right. It's like what's that? What? She doesn't have anything under there. What's the panties line?
Yeah.
Or, she's got nothing under it. Just panties. What else do I need?
What else? That's right.
There's a lot of just funny stuff. I mean, and the thing when Red Buttons talks to the girl about her brother being dead, and the way that some of the delivery happens.
That's pretty good.
I mean, there's a reason. This is an interesting movie that has weirdly, and I didn't even know this, but it has created this cult following that all these people now they have like these annual Poseidon Adventure get-togethers. There's this big fan club of I don't know, a couple thousand people or something like that. They do like Rocky Horror-esque screenings of it, where they kind of act it out as the movie's going. They've done there's this a play that this guy who's, I think I don't know if he's the one who created this fan club, but he's definitely in the fan club, and it's basically like a stage show that they do where it's an upside down thing where they're they just do this. It's called Poseidon, an upside down musical, and it's just this silly play that is just kind of got the hooker with the heart of gold, the Jewish couple, and it's something that people latch onto. It's
very Rocky. Thing. It's as Rocky Horror-esque.
It is because you can look at the dialogue, and it's a little over the top. When you're in it, it's great, and you can totally get into it. But like I was saying, when you're not in it and you're just kind of looking at it from the outside, it can end up coming across very almost like a parody of something like this. So I don't know. I think it's funny. I enjoy the dialogue, but it is funny how you can step back and you can see it that way.
I know there is that ease, but I think you're right. I guess that's the right way to put it for me, that you have to be in the mindset to watch this movie. But I would hope that one would not press play on the Poseidon Adventure if one did not already have some sense of what one was getting into.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's it definitely feels like a 70s disaster film, and I think if somebody's putting in a 70s disaster film, that this is what they should expect.
And yet, we get a nice dose of that sort of 70s challenge of organized religion. That sort of vibe of man versus God, man versus the world that we get from Gene Hackman as his role as protagonist, as leader of the gang that escapes, fights and leads through strength. That God doesn't need whiners, he says, and that God doesn't have time for our petty. What is the word that he uses? Our pettiness, whatever it is. God doesn't have time for our daily woes, and so we just have to muscle through it, be strong, and that's the vibe we get from his opening sermon, which really sets the stage for the fight for life as the boat begins to sink.
And it was actually. I found it this time, and maybe the past few times I've seen it, but this time I was really paying attention to it. The whole religious angle of it, I found very interesting. How Reverend Scott, Gene Hackman's character, was really resolute to fight. You have to fight for yourself. God would want you to. God's not here to just save people whenever people need saving. You have to do that because God's given you the power to do that. I think that's a really interesting angle to look at. And you get him talking to that other reverend that is on the ship, and it's kind of that battle of the views and the way that they both see things. And the other preacher is much more of the mindset that you've got to just trust in God. And I really like that battle between the two of them, especially how it ends up playing out once the boat's flipped and Reverend Scott is fleeing with these 10 people to try getting up to the top, and the other one decides to stay behind. But it's also a really interesting look at. So you've got the one reverend who's going to fight to live, the other one who's basically giving up. But at the same time, I do like that how the other reverend, you can look at it like he's giving up, but you can also look at it where it's like, no, he's also doing his job as a reverend, and he's choosing to be there for the people who won't flee. But he's the one who's going to give of himself to make sure that they still feel like they are loved and taken care of.
That was absolutely what I took away from that sequence, and I thought that was really interesting sort of twist, because in that light you can sort of interpret that Reverend Scott is the one giving up, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of his role as a leader of the flock, right? I'm sure I don't have the term right there. I don't even know what it is. But he is like his role is to the traditionalist role of the chaplain is to as purported in this film. Is to support and lead the flock and to be the one who sticks around during the last days to help people find strength and find what they need to be able to reach the end in peace. And Scott's the one who again carries on his we have to fight and leaves everybody there, and so you're left to question, I think, did he do the right thing? Did he do the right thing for the film? Dramatically, obviously, he had to get moving, but did he do the right thing to the robes? I think that's the question. I think that makes it, a more interesting sequence than just, oh my gosh, we got to get up on that balcony before the water comes in.
Well, and I think what's also interesting about that is the fact that it does play a little bit into it, where when they get up to the bottom of the boat, I can't remember what they call that area.
Down in the engine room when they're up
below,
in the engine room,
past the engine room, up to where like the turbines are, or whatever it is, up in that little top part
where
the
turbine room.
Hull, where the hull is only an inch thick, right?
Yeah.
Essentially, they get there and they still don't have a way out. And what I found really interesting is that it's almost as if there was this conversation between Reverend Scott and God, and it's almost like this challenge. If you can get the people up there, I will find a way to help them get out. And it's only because they're there that they happen to, at the right time, when they happen to hear the people who have landed on top of the sinking ship on the helicopter, they can hear them, and so they are able to start making noise, and that's how they end up being saved. So it's not like Reverend Scott really did have the answers. I mean, he would have led them into a blind corner if not for the hand of God reaching down and putting the helicopter, the rescue team right there above them.
Yeah, was that so? So when do you think he had that conversation with God? And because I think there are, to me at least, there are sort of two. There are two moments in the film where that kind of realization for Reverend Scott happens. The first one is kind of early on, where he's having that conversation with the chaplain. Is it better to die on your knees, blessing the weak? And then he makes that choice to leave. And the second is his ultimate sacrifice, which still, as many times as I've seen this film, is a surprise to me. Is that the point where he ultimately sort of declares his own personal victory? As he's hanging from, he just gets them through the engine room and then falls to his own death?
I don't know. I mean, I would say yes. At least that's the point where, I don't know if it's his own victory, but it's certainly the point where he is, to a certain extent, he can't go on any further, and it's like he's now leaving it up to God, Mm-hmm. and to them. I mean, obviously he tells Rogo to get them through. But at the same time, I think that there's more at play there. And it's an interesting moment. Like, if he didn't sacrifice himself there, would they have been saved? It's, you can always ask those sorts of questions, and who knows, because this is what we've seen. But it does play pretty interestingly, the way that he has to sacrifice himself at that point in order for them to get through and get saved.
Right. How does that play for you, watching Hackman? You like that?
I think it's great. I mean, I think it's a very powerful moment when he jumps onto the crank, and it's like in the hot steam, and he has to turn the valve wheel in order to shut the steam off so that everybody else can get through. And he's screaming at God the whole time. I think that's a very interesting scene. I really enjoy that character moment for him, especially what we've seen so far. And then it's like that tragic sacrifice that he does there. Really, just because there's no way for him to get off of that.
Right.
It's it gets me. I like that moment quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a wonderful sort of payoff, both for his role as the Reverend and his sort of combative role with Rogo. Ultimately he does it, he makes it, and they need and he gets Rogo gets some sort of redemption there in their relationship, and ultimately sees the power of Reverend Scott's ideas. We get that payoff as well, which I think works well. Leslie Nielsen, hello.
The funny thing about Leslie Nielsen is he did this at a point in his career when he wasn't doing the funny stuff.
Yeah.
But you can't watch him without feeling like he's doing a parody.
I know.
It's like, I cannot take anything he does seriously. And then he's got that moment. God, I just couldn't stop laughing when he's talking to his second in command. And they're talking about this blip on the radar screen, this big wave, and then he looks up at him. By the way, Happy New Year. just like that felt like totally out of Airplane.
Exactly. What's that? Well, it's a holiday. We celebrate at the turning of the year. And don't call me Shirley. I have that moment at the beginning, right, as the it's storming and the boy comes in and he grabs him by the shoulders and he tells him, get below decks. And I can't watch that scene without hearing in my head, and have you seen any Gladiator movies?
Yes.
But that Leslie Nielsen, the dude can act.
Even though his part is small.
He pulls it off.
Yes, he does. Yes.
I enjoy watching him in just about anything, but this one is made so much the better having recently seen Airplane. His role is made better for me. Some other performances that stick out. Obviously, Roddy McDowall, the young Roddy McDowall.
Oh, yes. Yes.
As Akers. He is fun to see in this film.
Yeah, this was just a few years after he started doing the Planet of the Apes thing, the whole cycle that he got into with all those movies.
Right. It was a treat seeing him. It was a particular treat for me to see Jack Albertson playing opposite Shelley Winters as Manny Rosen. Again, mostly because we have just watched Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Or I guess it's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And,
right.
And he too has that sort of Leslie Nielsen vibe, Yeah, when we get to Israel, Charlie, we'll have the ticket. We'll have the golden ticket.
Right. They never mention who it is that they're going to see in Israel.
Exactly. But it was a treat seeing him in this film.
It's so funny because for some reason, I have just him glued in my head from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and it's as if he doesn't exist outside of that film.
So when you see him,
yeah, it's always Grandpa Joe, and it's like I can't picture him doing anything else. It's so strange seeing him in other things. So, but and he's an Oscar winner. Who knew?
Oh yeah, he's got 179 credits to him. He's been around.
Yeah.
Best. So the subject was Roses, 1968, supporting actor.
Yeah.
He was a treat to
see. It was great seeing him. And I thought he and Shelley Winters made just an absolutely delightful couple.
They did. I really agree. And Shelley Winters, a fantastic swimmer.
And she put on 35 pounds for this role.
And trained with an Olympic swimmer to try to and she, it's funny to watch her interviews. Well, I'm a very good swimmer. I'm a very, very good swimmer. So she really was trained to swim up stairwells.
2 months she did training on this to get the swimming so that she could do all of her own underwater stuff in this. Pretty dedicated.
It's funny because that scene, it pays off.
It does.
I mean, it's no Alien Resurrection.
If only there had been aliens loose on the ship. Would have really sold the movie.
But it pays off. It's good. It's good to see her non-stunt doubled saving Gene Hackman, who, by all appearances, was trapped underwater under some tarpaulin. It didn't look like he was under any great threat, but it was an intense sequence. What were you going to say? I interrupted you.
Oh, no. I was just going to say that, this was a movie where everybody was trying to do their own stunts. They were really wanting to kind of create that sense of authenticity. And so, Neame and Allen were kind of trying to get all the actors to do all their own stuff, whether it's climbing the ladders. In the end, in the engine room, it was like this giant maze of all these pipes and things that people were climbing across, and they all had to climb up. I can't remember. It was like 2 stories on these things to get up to the level, and they all did it. And Ronald Neame, he would go ahead and do all of it first to show everybody how safe it was, which I think is pretty funny. But
and because he likes to climb on things.
And because he's just a little monkey, that Ronald Neame.
not often reported.
That's right.
Can we talk, speaking of, talk a little bit about set design?
Yes.
Because holy cow.
Yeah.
The production design, William Kreber, set decoration, Raphael Breton. This was a fantastic set. It was built based on very detailed blueprints of the Queen Mary, and boy, you can really tell. In particular, the sequence when the rogue wave actually hits the ship and the ship goes over, that sort of slow tilt. They built the set on what I can only seem to describe as a makeshift gimbal. It wasn't like a real rocking set. They actually lifted it up with a forklift, but it absolutely plays really well as these people are thrown to the side and then eventually hanging upside down, and I think plays really well with the ad line. The ad line on the posters: "Hell upside down." Mm-hmm. I think they do a fantastic job.
Well, and it's the way that they did that gimbal, I thought was pretty interesting too. I think it made it all the more effective because it lifted it somewhere between like 30 and 45 degrees. I've heard varying reports, and so they would raise it and they would film all the people going from regular level to about 45 degrees up or so, and then what they and they'd have the camera positioned. It would be locked down at that ground level so that everything would look like it's tilting. Our ground level, like we're outside of it filming as it tilts.
Right.
And then they would tilt the camera to match the tilt on the stage. So when it's at ground level, it now looks like it's 45 degrees. And then they would tilt it up again, and it would make it look like it was at 90 degrees. So that way they could get it to look like it was completely sideways, and so they were able to really get a lot more out of it by playing around with the camera and the way they were shooting that. And then they just were yanking things through to make it look like everything was sliding and falling down. So it's very effective, very smart effects that they were figuring out. I think paired with the production design, we should also mention the mechanical and photographic effects team of LB Bill Abbott and A.D. Flowers, who I think really came up with some creative stuff to make all of this stuff really feel like we were in this boat and it was flipping over.
It really does. These just practical, smart effects that really do look like they're putting the actors in jeopardy. I think they do a great job of making you really worry that there's some sort of a liability issue. I think it plays really well and holds up surprisingly well over these last 42 years.
Yeah, it's been around for a while.
Yeah, that's God, let that sink in. 42 years, and it's still a wonderfully intense disaster flick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who else do you want to talk about?
Red Buttons, I think, is fun to watch. I know we mentioned him briefly, but I just as somebody that I had never watched that many in that many films before, it's nice to see him pop up, and he's typically a very kind of a comedic force, is what Red Buttons was always known for.
Right.
So it's nice to see him do these turns that are a little more serious. And he was another Oscar winner. He won in a film called Sayonara, in which he played a much more kind of dramatic role. And so it was nice to see him pop up in this. And who else? I think we kind of ran through the gamut of the cast. Ernest Borgnine, of course, we've talked about a few times on the show. Mm-hmm. And it's, he just does this sort of part really well. It's always fun to see Ernie pop up and do something that's gruff. And yeah, he does it well. And Gene Hackman, he coming off the French Connection. I think they had started filming this when the Oscars happened, and so they gave him a cake and everything because he won his Oscar for the French Connection while he was making this one. Obviously, it's a great start to his career with the French Connection. Well, he had been in some other stuff, but the French Connection was really the big one, getting the Oscar and everything. And according to Ronald Neame, Neame said that he felt a bit like he was slumming it making this movie, and he thought that Gene Hackman also felt like he was slumming it a bit because it's this big Hollywood disaster movie that It just seemed rather silly. But the way that it ended up being received, everybody ended up being quite happy with it because obviously it did pretty well.
What do you think? What do you think Ronald Neame would have sent in a card on the release of Superman 4: The Quest for Peace?
That's right.
Hey, go
back
check
to slumming it again.
Yeah, that's right. How's John Cryer?
Jeez, was he in that?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Lenny.
That is too funny.
That's a winner. Yes. Okay. Gene Hackman. I couldn't. I really, on the subject of Superman, boy, does he get some Miss Nessmacher screams in this film. Always a treat to hear Gene Hackman raise his voice.
Yes.
Okay, so Gene Hackman, we've talked about Ernie Borgnine, Red Buttons. There's Carol Lindley, Nani.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Name of my neighbor's dog.
Nani.
Mm-hmm. Also, what my kids call my mother.
Oh.
Yeah. Carol Lindley.
Yep.
Actually, they call her Nani. Did you get that? That was a joke, but there was nothing there. There's no play, just a lot of dead air. It happens sometimes. You try stuff.
Sometimes it happens. Yes.
Anyone else on the cast that you want to specifically call out? I feel good.
Yeah, the kids I thought were fine. Eric Shea is, I swear he was one of those kid actors that I had seen in things before, but I think that he ended up kind of just disappearing after this, is what it sounded like. I don't think, he did a few more things after this.
He did some TV.
But by the end of the 70s, he pretty much was out and done with his film career.
Yeah.
Smart, get out while you can.
That's right. But he was good. He was he acquitted himself well.
I think he's great, and his sister Pamela Sue Martin, I think, does a great job too. I think that they all work well in the roles that they have, and I enjoy watching them all.
Pamela Sue Martin, she's one of those that was weird to watch because. I have a thing with Dynasty.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. She was Fallon on Dynasty for several years. And so that's where I knew her from. And so, but that was in the 80s. That was a good, 10 years later. And I didn't have much of a sense for where she came from when I first, started watching Dynasty. She was also Nancy Drew in the late 70s. And so I feel like I watched her on Nancy Drew, too, when I was a kid.
That is funny.
But then, again, nothing for just a smattering of things through the 80s and 90s. And then back in McTaggart's Fortune in 2014. That's crazy.
Missed that one, yeah.
Oh, did you? What? How could you possibly... have missed that.
McTaggart's Fortune. 3 high school students search for a lost treasure in their hometown, only to be haunted by the ghosts that protect the lost fortune.
She was in Supernatural. Spelled soup-er-natural.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. I feel pretty good about that.
How about old Ronald Neame?
Yeah, let's talk about him.
Yeah. He's an interesting director who actually started as a cinematographer and then kind of shifted gears. He did cinematography, producing, screenwriting, and directing. He kind of did quite a bit of stuff, and he worked with David Lean on some of his films in the 40s. I think he was producing with Lean on those and maybe writing some of those, like his Brief Encounter, Great Expectations, Oliver Twist.
Mm-hmm.
And then he moved into directing, I think, in the 60s. And I think he did Judy Garland's last film, I Could Go On Singing. He did The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. And he did some directing in the 50s too, because lo and behold, he directed some films with somebody we're going to be talking about fairly soon, Sir Alec Guinness. He did The Horse's Mouth and Tunes of Glory. And then, of course, he did a 1970 musical version of Scrooge, all with Alec Guinness.
Oh, I love that.
We should have planned
Who
that.
knew? Well, we did, is what you're meant to say.
We planned
totally
that.
planned that. So this one was considerably late in his career, although the dude kept directing after Poseidon Adventure, a Deciphile, Meteor, Hopscotch, all the way to 1990's The Magic Balloon short, and he's still around, 99 years old.
No, he died. He died in 2010.
Oh, he died in 2010 at 99.
99.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah, he did a lot of stuff.
He, busy
man.
Ronald Neame. Now, what about our slack-jawed IMDb traitor, Irwin Allen?
Yeah, he's a master of disaster. I mean, he's an interesting character who he actually. What did he say? There's a great something that he said when Star Wars came out, because he had been making all these disaster films in the 70s and is just kind of making a big splash with all that stuff. And then when Star Wars came out, he said something like he was bewildered by the fact that a film with apparently no stars or a love story could enrapture audiences so fervently. And that really kind of spelled the end of his run of all of these big disasters. I mean, he tried to do a few more after Star Wars. He still kind of kept pushing to see, but they weren't as popular anymore. People were wanting to see all these bigger things like Star Wars, and so his
especially interesting because he's the guy behind Lost in Space.
Yeah, right.
And he was behind. He created the show. I mean, so I find it interesting that he has such disparaging things to say about Star Wars.
Well, maybe Lost in Space had a better love story.
Yeah,
I mean,
it had June Lockhart. I don't know. Maybe that was I'm now we're talking about kind of Nick at Night territory for me. So I don't know who was super popular in Lost in Space,
right?
Besides, who played the bad guy? What's his name? Jonathan Harris as Dr. Zachary Smith. I think he was pretty popular.
Yeah.
Anyhow, you weren't a big Lost in Space fan, is what you're telling me.
I wasn't. I watched the movie. I actually don't think I ever saw an episode of that, but
really?
I did see the abysmal movie version, which was really completely terrible.
Oh, come on!
I know.
Gary Oldman, William Hurt, Matt LeBlanc put a lot of big name stars in that train wreck.
Yes, they did. See, just like you said, you got to put the stars in it.
You got to put the stars in it.
It can't be this Star Wars thing with no stars.
Are we? Do we have? I don't remember now. Do we have any more giant disaster movies in our slate for this year?
I don't think we're talking about any other big disaster movies, and we got
none of them ended up worth it as this one.
Yeah, not really. I mean, we're doing the Mad Max series, but that's a different
different kind of a vibe.
Different, yeah. Nope.
All right. Well, I think this is a kicking way to open our 2015 season, and I'm very excited about it. How did it do when it first came out?
Well, before we get to that, Pete.
Yeah?
Let's mention Sterling Silliphant, the writer, the screenwriter.
Oh, and I've already been so complimentary about the screenwriting of this film.
I know.
It seems like a horrible omission.
It is a horrible omission. Jeez.
All right.
Sterling Silliphant, definitely a very popular writer this period of time. A lot of people may know him for the In the Heat of the Night screenplay that he wrote, which was quite a great script for a great film. And then he co-created the TV series Route 66, and he just had a very long career in television, and in film and made a lot of stuff. And then I believe, what was it? He hit this point where he started hanging out. It's like hanging out with Bruce Lee or something like that, and kind of changed his just kind of the direction of his life. And he decided that he wanted to leave, and he quit the business and he moved off to Thailand. And he ended up just staying there for the rest of his life, and that's where he died back in '96. So, just one of those weird things. He just, decided to split.
Dare to dream.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, he is responsible for a lot of really fun films. He's got 70 writing credits, and I think many of them, as I look at them, are worth checking out. Fun,
yeah.
Not a lot of doorbusters after Towering Inferno, but I think
Well, and he came right back with Irwin Allen for the Towering Inferno.
Yeah.
They kept working together for that one. So, this was an interesting, just kind of a side note about this movie. We already talked about how it kind of got this weird cult classic following and everything, but this is just a funny other addition to this is that there is this weird appeal for this film to kind of the gay crowd. There are a lot of gay people who really enjoy this film because I think it's like the 70s fashions. You've got just kind of stuff that's very campy. And I, in kind of the production circles and everything, there was this just a couple different productions that I was doing where we kept trying to find period things that we had to do for a shoot. And we ended up, people kept referring us to this one guy, and we'd go to his house, and he just had all this weird kitschy stuff. And he's a very flamboyant gay guy, and but he had his house totally decked out, like different themes. And this one time I went to his house because we were getting props for some 50s shoot that we needed, and he had redone his entire house to the Poseidon Adventure theme because he was getting ready for a giant New Year's party that he was going to have. And he proceeded to tell me how over the course of the night he was going to be kind of slowly tipping everything and kind of making it look like everything was tipping over and being destroyed. It's a very strange draw that people have to this. But every time I think of the Poseidon Adventure, I always think about this guy's house and his big New Year's party where everything is going to be tipping over. So
that is awesome.
Yeah, just random story.
That is awesome. It's good. I want to do that just around my office. Just as people come in, just start tipping things over.
Right. Ooh, sink a chip.
All right, now you have to tell me how it did.
This movie, it did really well for itself. Like we said, this was the kind of the setting things off for this burst of 70s disaster films. I mean, Airport had been before and had been successful, but this is really the one that took off and did really well for itself. The budget was about $4.7 million, adjusted for today's dollars. That's about $26 million. For a big disaster film nowadays, you'd never spend 26. I mean, they're always like a couple $100 million on these huge
right.
things now. It ended up grossing $93.3 million, which is adjusted almost $520 million. So adjusted profit per finished minute, this thing raked in $4.2 million per finished minute. And that puts it at number 12 on our adjusted for inflation list.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was the number one film of, it came out toward the end of 1972. So it was the number one film of 1973. It had made most of its money in 1973. And of course, The Exorcist, which came out at the very end of 1973, ended up, again, kind of pushing itself up above this one. And it became the number one film for that year. But two very, very big films right around there.
And it gets back to, I think, that 70s vibe, this idea of, what is it that we're really wanting to see in the 70s? How do these films become a cultural representation of what's going on? at the time, and I just think it's a fascinating. It's almost more of an interesting history lesson for me than a cinematic one. Even though there's so much good stuff going on, I think it's really fun to sort of use this as a mirror of the period.
Yeah, and we've talked about this with some of our other older films,
Marathon Man.
Well, and even going back even further to things like The African Queen, how there are films that were made that you watch now, and you don't. It's like, okay, well, that's entertaining, but there are things that are being established in that film, and African Queen certainly had some pretty stellar camera work that was being done in that film for the time period. This film really was setting the bar for kind of this effects work and the in this whole disaster world, and that's what really blew people away, is watching this whole boat tip over. I mean, people had never seen that before, and it really just kind of shook their world watching this, and that's something that I think people still latch onto. And I think it would be interesting to, in a couple years, show this to my daughter and just kind of see if it's something that she latches onto.
Yeah, I know my kids will get into it as soon as we get past the opening old people talking bit.
You're right, yes.
Yeah. So
not so fun watching that anymore.
Let's rank it.
Let's do it.
Head over to flickchart.com/thenextreel and catch up with all of our old films, the films we've talked about, and let's see if this one breaks the top 40.
Well, let's try.
I'm going to go with 40.
Okay. Let's start with The Poseidon Adventure or Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah, it's not going to break the top 40.
It's not going to break the top 40. Yes, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yep.
But we still love
it, yes.
The Poseidon Adventure or The Adventures of Baron Munchausen? I would go with Poseidon Adventure.
I would too.
Poseidon Adventure or A Fistful of Dollars?
Fistful of Dollars. No, yes. Fistful of Dollars.
Poseidon Adventure or Buckaroo Banzai? Oh, Pete.
Now we're talking about which one I would put on first. Is that how we're going to do this?
Well, I would put on The Poseidon Adventure first.
Sadly, I think I would too. Sorry, Buckaroo.
Oh, Buckaroo. All right, Poseidon Adventure or Moon?
I would say Moon.
I would probably do Poseidon Adventure.
Just probably?
Yeah, probably.
Because I would definitely do Moon.
All right, well, I'll give you Moon then. Poseidon Adventure or It Happened One Night? I would do It Happened One Night.
Okay.
The Walls of Jericho. That just came out on Blu-ray.
Nice.
I know. I'd love to pick it up. The Poseidon Adventure or Run Lola Run?
Run Lola Run.
Yeah. How about The Poseidon Adventure or Gallipoli? I think I would do Poseidon.
Yeah.
And there we are. 112 out of 165.
I have to stop feeling bad about films that don't break 100.
Yeah, we have like at least 150 or so movies that we love.
Yes. Yeah.
On the list.
Right.
So
that's
totally
okay. It's okay. It's okay, Pete.
Yes. You'll make it through this.
I know. I got this. It's a good film. It's a good way to kick off the year. I'm excited about the series that we have coming up. Everybody, you should head over to Letterboxd /thenextreel, and you can see what we are doing in at least the first 6 months of the year.
Right.
We have the first 6 months posted. But don't worry, we've got the whole through 2020 films that we're going to talk about. We're just going to drip it out.
That's right. That's right.
And so check out the films, and so you can get ahead and make sure you're watching the films before you listen to the show, so we spoil them for you. That's
exactly.
Yeah,
we're going to be jumping into like we mentioned, Sir Alec Guinness. We were talking. I can't remember how we came up to it with Sir Alec Guinness. Well, actually, it was interestingly the reason we started this whole show.
The whole show.
Yeah, the entire concept of the show revolves around one of the movies in this series.
Man in the White Suit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, it's pretty interesting. And then I think we just decided to do him because he's one of those actors that has been around and has done so much, but the vast majority of people today just don't seem to know him as anything except Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
Which is sad.
It's really sad because he has such wonderful range.
Yeah.
And I'm just really looking forward to checking this film out. Checking the series out again. And I love starting with are we starting with Man of the West? No, we're not. We're starting with Kind Hearts and Coronets. Yeah.
That will be the first one, and Lavender Hill Mob, The Man in the White Suit, The Lady Killers, and we're ending with Murder by Death.
Yes. Oh, I love that movie so much.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one, so I've only seen I think 2 of these, so I'm pretty excited to jump into this one and dig a little deeper into Guinness's chronology.
Oh, what a great series! Hey, go to Letterboxd and look. Just look at the posters. They're all great posters.
Yeah, they really are. They knew how to make good posters back then.
Really did. All right. I don't have anything else. I got to go to bed.
All right. I'm going to go eat some cake. I don't have anything. I got to plan those better.
Yeah. Mine's super short.
Oh, okay. Well, then go first.
It's called Bad Movie by Bob. This was an awful movie. Gene Hackman was an embarrassment in the role he played. He was stupid, arrogant, and annoying. The end.
Wow.
I know.
Wow, Bob.
Yeah, Bob did not like this movie. It was a very bad movie. Full of arrogance and stupidity.
That was a 1-star from Bob?
No, 5 stars, interestingly. Yes, it was a 1-star.
Well, interestingly, mine is a 1-star, but they say it's just okay, which to me is like, it's a 2-star, or maybe a 3-star, but it's just okay. Apparently, to Flower Power means 1 star. Flower Power says, first off, I thought it was based on a true story. Because, I mean, who wouldn't? Because I read about that all the time. I wouldn't watch a movie like this if it wasn't based on truth. Why bother? What's the point? I guess I'm not a disaster movie fan just for the sake of watching a disaster. Man, this person, this is great. Even during the first 20 minutes, though, when I thought it was based on truth, I had to fast forward because some of the characters were just so irritating and it was boring. That's what you get for truth, Flower Power. Once I realized it wasn't true, I couldn't get into it and ended up fast forwarding through much of it because at that point, I really didn't care and just wanted to get to the ending. Shelley Winters was great, Hackman and Borgnine enjoyable, but unless you're a disaster fan, I wouldn't recommend it.
Shirley Winters?
Shelley Winters.
Did she see the same movie we saw?
She saw the one with Shelley Winters.
With Shelley Winters and Hackman and Borgnine.
Yes, right.
Some of these titles are wonderful. We have taut, compelling, gripping, not, and bad acting, bad dialogue, and too much yelling. Amazon.
Andy, it is hard to believe that we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
You are telling me. Producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
I love The Next Reel Season 4. Do you know why?
I don't. Why?
Because we got to talk about my favorite movie, Terry Gilliam's Brazil.
That's not even an adaptation.
No, but it was such a great part of our great Terry Gilliam series, and a few others in that series were adaptations, like The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, adapted from Raspi's stories, and La Jetée, which inspired 12 Monkeys.
Oh, right. And for our Man with No Name trilogy, we saw how Sergio Leone's A Fistful of Dollars was basically stolen from Kurosawa's Yojimbo.
We added Labor Day to our Jason Reitman series, adapted from Joyce Maynard's novel.
Oof, there's one we'll always regret.
Our big Stephen King series covered adaptations like The Shining, Cujo, Christine, and Stand By Me, great horror and coming-of-age tales.
Another Coen Brothers adaptation, too. We got to talk about how they turned Homer's The Odyssey into Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou?
For our holiday series, we did The Bishop's Wife and The Poseidon Adventure.
And who could forget seeing Alec Guinness in the adaptation of Kind Hearts and Coronets during our series dedicated to him.
We really need to do more of his films.
Truly.
We had our first film noir series with classics like Double Indemnity, Detour, and Out of the Past.
And our black and white cinematography of James Wong Howe's series with The Thin Man, Sweet Smell of Success, Seconds, and King's Row. So many adaptations.
Oh, you're not kidding. Dive deeper into these originals and more at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book you buy helps support our show.
Get the full list at thenextreel.com/originals and start reading today.